He say, she say, we say, I say, hearing out them points of views when I see it my way. Yes it goes, yes it knows, maybe so's, probably not, shoulds and coulds, do's and don'ts, your wills and won'ts is how you rock. Politicians and religions, on your house or are you renting? Is you married, is you single, meta interest when you mingle, turn out to be someone you into, so how long before the bed get wrinkled? Children when they tripping, is it time out or do you whip them? Opinions and decisions, hunches, intuitions, may or may not get it, cause people's experience different. Check the prejudice at the door. Speak the mind, you give the flow. Tell the truth if it's sweet or sour, cause the hour we spittin' that fire.
Hello everyone, this is Spittinfire coming to you with another one. Okay, so I'm coming to you with my commentary on the Bill Cosby situation. I was going to cover the story this morning, but you know what? I was on another channel and it was Nicole's View. So if you seen my video earlier today, I directed everybody to go over there because she was covering it so well. Okay, she had a panel, then she actually covered the hearing, and then later on she had his publicist, Andrew Wyatt, on there. And I thought it was such a good layout that she had for today. And Bill Cosby, and I know she did a lot of advocacy work and, you know, commentary on Bill Cosby's situation, even more so than I. And so I felt like, okay, I needed people to come into one arena. I didn't want it to be separated. And that's one of the things that is a problem with us as a culture. So, you know, you got people listening over here, people here and here. So I didn't want the division. You know what I mean? It wasn't a situation where it was my channel and this is her channel and this all this and that. Sometimes you have to be selfless and direct people into one arena so they can get the full message and concept into which we try to give you the information and give and show light of the injustices that we were enduring and what the Supreme Court had to say, and R. Kelly's defense attorney as well as the prosecutor. So I felt like, okay, I know people gonna want to hear my point of view on this, but I want you to go over there to her channel to just get the general message. You understand? And that was really the importance of it, because when there's a message out here that we want to send out here, you need people to be planted somewhere so they can get it. People all over the place will interpret things all over the place, and we are a culture that's already divided. So we definitely need to bring some togetherness and some and some collectiveness, and we did that over there on her channel, and she did such an amazing job. Okay. I'm going to talk about some you guys pertaining to as subscribers at the end of this, at the very end. I'm going to tell you about yourselves or whatever. However, we're going to cover this Bill Cosby situation. So one of the things that I felt that was interesting in this hearing was that Bill Cosby attorney, the lady attorney that spoke on behalf of Bill Cosby, to me, and I'm not an expert legally, but did an amazing job. She did an amazing job to not only deliver her argument to the Supreme Court, but she also did an amazing job rebuttaling the questions that the justices had to ask her. And that was good. And it made sense, because not only was it within the law, but she used common sense and logic with it. And this is one of the things that even in other cases, such as R. Kelly, is going to be needed in this situation. See, and I'm going to throw a little bit of R. Kelly in this situation right now, because I know a lot of people were saying that in her thread: R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, Bill Cosby, Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, Bill. And here's the thing: people will pick a side on what they want to believe. And Bill Cosby, you had people saying, I'm for Bill Cosby and not for R. Kelly. And then you had people, and R. Kelly said, I'm for R. Kelly and not for Bill Cosby. Then you just have people say, well, they accused, I'm just not for them, I'm on the side of the alleged accusers, okay, victims. So here's my take on that. First of all, you have to give yourself, not just, especially if you're black, you have to give your men benefit of the doubt. You have to. Regardless of whether you say it's a pattern, it was other witnesses, other people, you have to give them the benefit of the doubt and hear their argument. If you're just going to believe witnesses, there was no reason for Bill Cosby to even do a deposition. There's no reason for R. Kelly to even have to plead guilty. If you're just going to believe the victims or alleged victims or alleged accusers or whatever you want to call these people, okay? If you just want us just to believe them, and that this is the common sense part that I have been speaking on since 2019, then why would we even have a court system? Why would they even need to be in Supreme Court? Why would they even need to go to court? If we're just supposed to believe them, then you just pick them up and take them to prison. It doesn't make sense. And this is what I've been always telling people, and I was trying to tell ops over here and everything else, and people now down. It's just a mess over here, but it doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? So the argument that the attorney argued was that, and it made common sense, and I've often told you guys, even when I was on my panel with my former co-host Cassie, she will argue me down, and I told her the very same thing that this attorney was arguing with to the justices on the behalf of Bill Cosby, was that she was like, he admitted it. No, you guys take things literally. You have to dissect things, and you have to really hear me. And I said this to her, and I tried to find our clips. I didn't know we did that many videos. It got buried. But here is what I want to say. No one would normally, whether they're innocent or guilty, will incriminate themselves. No one would knowingly do that. If you tell me if I did something and you promised me that I wouldn't go to jail if I told you what all happened, okay, that's more logical. I would not say I gave women quaaludes and forced them to have sex with me if I thought that it could potentially put me in jail. Like, that does not make any sense. Just like with R. Kelly's situation. It doesn't make sense. You can, people, and then the justices ask some questions. Let me not deviate from Bill Cosby to R. Kelly, because that wouldn't be fair. But, because this is Bill Cosby moment. Let me tell you. And then the justices asked about the women making police reports. And the justices asked these questions to the prosecutor. Well, did they make any police reports? She asked the defense that too. And when it came to the prosecutor, they said, well, no, judge, a lot of them didn't. But statistically, you know, a lot of women don't go to the police. And a lot of women are ashamed to do this. Okay. How many of you rocked with me and I told you shame is not an excuse not to make a police report? We have laws. Because just as much as there are people who are ashamed to not tell anybody that something happened, there are people who actually went to the police to tell what happened when it happened. You get what I'm going? So that's not a defense because of shame. And this is what the media was telling you. Don Lemon and all of that told you that shit because of shame. No, that's no excuse not going to the damn police because you are ashamed. Even if he did brutally rape you, as sad as it is, and horrible as it may have been, shame is not his issue. That's yours. In the midst of everything happening in the world, that will be yours. Even if he did it. Because we have laws. And just like you were ashamed, the next victim wasn't. And they reported it. So I'm saying that to say, he said, well, all the victims that you used, okay, as a pattern and stuff like that, that you had testified to try to show that there is a pattern, none of them went. Oh, well, judges, yeah, but they told their friends, they told people, they didn't think nobody would believe them. Okay, but here's the thing. If you can tell your friend, you can tell your coach, you can tell people close to you, how do you know if they was going to believe you? How do you know that the police are not going to believe you? How do you know the people that you told is not going to believe you? What is the difference between me telling my coach and telling the police? What my coach going to do? If I was raped, what is my coach going to do? Or what is my friend going to do? What if they didn't believe you? Then what are you going to do? I don't understand, and I don't understand why the people who did happen to them, who didn't advise them to go make a police report. And then you have one of the women say, "Oh yeah, he offered me a Quaalude and I took it." I screamed that shit in 2019. Spittinfire screamed that in 2019. I said no, and I argued with my co-host about that. I said no, they took Quaaludes. That was Hollywood. Ain't no damn body have to drug you in Hollywood when you a celebrity like Bill Cosby and all this money and it's sex, drugs and rock and roll. No, we all know that. No, and I told people that. He drugging them like Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby ain't drugged nobody. He offered it to you and your ass took it. He got all that money. You know you spread an eagle. Quiet as kept all us talking about Bill Cosby a rapist and all that. If he would have told y'all to drop down, y'all would have did it too for all that money he got, thinking you're going to get something. Trust and believe. But here is a snippet of the hearing and the justices. Let's listen.
Mr. Fallon.
Good morning. In this case, the felon was convicted of aggravated indecent assault stemming from an incident that occurred in 2004. Prior to trial, the felon moved to dismiss charges, claiming that the prosecution had granted him immunity from criminal liability. To testify regarding their accusations of sexual assault against the felon for purposes of establishing a felon's common scheme or plan. The issues before the court are whether, one, the testimony of the five witnesses regarding their respective accusations was admissible evidence under Rule 404B, and secondly, whether there was a binding agreement between appellant and the Montgomery County District Attorney that would result in immunity from criminal prosecution. With that, we'll proceed with the appellant.
Good morning, and may it please the court. In our system of justice, a defendant must be tried for what he did and not who he is. And yet the prosecution has made no secret of the fact that it intended to indict Mr. Cosby's entire life. After failing to secure a conviction after Mr. Cosby's first trial, the prosecution shifted strategy, laying waste to the presumption of innocence and telling the jury that Mr. Cosby's claim of defense could not be believed because, quote, he had done this so many times before. The prosecution forced Mr. Cosby to defend not only the charged offense, but 5 mini trials and vague accusations from countless Jane Does dating back to the 1970s. And while the public and the media were free to judge Mr. Cosby's guilt based on those factors, his criminal jury was not. And perhaps a limiting instruction served its purpose at Mr. Cosby's first trial, but there can be no confidence that it did its job at the second, where the jury was bombarded with prior bad act evidence. Indeed, half of the prosecution witnesses testified in connection with uncharged 404B allegations. Some of the allegations, the most damning ones, came from a deposition that should not have been admitted in the first instance on account of an agreement with the Montgomery County District Attorney not to prosecute Mr. Cosby, a promise on which he relied to his grave detriment.
They go through the Montgomery County did.
As argued in our briefs, none of the prior bad act evidence served a legitimate non-propensity purpose. But that aside, consensus surely must be reached that Mr. Cosby suffered unquantifiable prejudice where the PBA evidence or the prior bad act evidence overwhelmed his second trial, converting it from a trial on a single offense to a trial of his character. And with that, I would entertain any questions from the court.
Counsel, this is Counsel Justice Doherty speaking. Let me just zero in on the civil deposition. Even taking into consideration and finding is true that he, Mr. Cosby, your client, did not believe that he was to be prosecuted for the events involving Ms. Constantine. Tell me, when confronted with a question plausibly implicating criminal conduct in any deposition, an individual has an affirmative duty to invoke their Fifth Amendment regarding other issues or potential other criminal conduct. Why was that not done by counsel for Mr. Cosby or Mr. Cosby himself?
I think that speaks to the agreement, frankly, that the agreement not to prosecute was linked to the willingness to give a civil deposition, which we know this in part from looking at the press release, which demonstrated that not only did the district attorney at the time, Bruce Castor, decline to prosecute, but he mentions in the press release that there was going to be ongoing civil litigation. So, and you also can look at Mr. Schmidt's testimony, who's testified that it was our understanding, it was our belief that the promise not to prosecute would be honored so long as Mr. Cosby agreed to sit for this deposition and give testimony and not invoke his Fifth Amendment right, which he did, again, to his detriment. And in hindsight, of course, we would have preferred to have seen a written agreement or something on the record that would have reflected that this was the arrangement that had been made. But I think the fact that Mr. Cosby actually sat, answered questions for 4 days, and I think it speaks to the court's point, that this is evidence in and of itself that he relied on this representation. No one would sit for a deposition and not invoke their Fifth Amendment right, guilty or innocent, if there was the possibility of criminal prosecution looming over your head. So the fact that he did leads to the only reasonable inference that he believed that in order to not be prosecuted, this was part of the agreement that he complied with.
Tomorrow is a huge day for Bill Cosby, comedic icon. I mean, just someone who was bigger than life. America's dad was convicted of sexual assault in Pennsylvania, is in prison as we speak, but tomorrow his team will be in front of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Julie Graham has more on the background of this story.
The beloved actor and comedian, once known as America's dad, now considered a sexually violent predator, is hoping to have his convictions overturned. The two main issues in Bill Cosby's appeal involve the testimony of other accusers besides victim Andrea Constant and an alleged promise he would not be prosecuted. Cosby's first trial ended with a hung jury, the second with convictions on 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault. In the first trial, the court allowed the state to call 1 prior bad act witness, but in the second trial, the court allowed 5.
There's a disparity there in the numbers. Looking at the math, it makes sense to me that the Supreme Court wants to look at this issue.
Trial expert Barbara Ashcroft once served as a prosecutor in Montgomery County, where Cosby was tried, and now serves as Attorney Advisor General to the U.S. Marine Corps.
When you have 5 witnesses saying that, they were drugged in some way, they were incapacitated, they were sexually assaulted, versus 1, right? The numbers themselves speak volumes about what the members are going to be thinking, what the jury is going to be talking about behind closed doors.
Such witnesses were in addition to victim Andrea Constant, who was the named victim for the crimes charged. The defense argues the trial court erred in allowing other accusers to tell their stories for crimes never charged, specifically arguing it's prohibited propensity evidence. The trial court ruled the jury could hear the other women's stories because 1, they could be considered part of Cosby's common plan, and 2, because they show an absence of mistake.
Big picture here, I think this is going to be monumental decision, and it's going to affect the prior bad acts admissibility with many, many cases to come.
The second issue being raised is with an alleged promise not to prosecute made by former Montgomery County DA Bruce Castor. It was never a formal immunity agreement approved by a court, and it was never put in writing. Castor announced the decision by press release in 2005. Subsequently, Cosby admitted during a deposition for Andrea Constant's civil lawsuit that he would give women quaaludes before having sex with them.
But we all need to remember at this deposition, when he made admissions about Quaaludes and having sex with women after giving them Quaaludes, he had his team of attorneys at that deposition table. And so if he wasn't, you know, of the mind to say, hey, listen, I'm not going to incriminate myself, he had a team of attorneys there.
The case was settled for close to $3.4 million in 2006. Fast forward to 2015, new DA Kevin Steele is elected and files charges against Cosby just before the statute of limitations is set to expire.
I work with both Bruce Castor and Kevin Steele, and I have a lot of respect for both of them. Kevin Steele was of the mind that Bill Cosby, the evidence was there, that members of the society should hear it, and they should make the decision whether or not he's guilty or not.
The defense argues DA Castor's intent was to remove the threat of prosecution so Cosby would not assert his Fifth Amendment privilege.
Playing king of the castle, that he could give Bill Cosby total immunity, and by the way, secret immunity is a little silly. You know, we don't have that kind of power. I don't think he had that kind of power.
The damaging admissions Cosby made in the civil deposition were introduced as evidence in his criminal case. Cosby's defense argues on appeal those statements should not have been allowed in.
So these team of attorneys also accepted the fact that there was no written documentation about this secret endless immunity that Bill Cosby was supposed to get against criminal liability. So I think that's always an important issue for the general public to understand. He has a team of lawyers that are there to protect him.
Now, another team of lawyers is going before the highest court in Pennsylvania to protect his interests on appeal, asking the court for a new trial.
All right, big day tomorrow. Let's bring in Court TV Live anchor Julie Grant. Julie, new trial, that's what he wants. What does he have to show tomorrow?
So the standard for review, Vinny, with this case is abuse of discretion by the trial judge. So that's a pretty high standard. We're not just talking about an error in judgment by the court. We're talking about something like proof that the law was misapplied or the law was overridden. You know, we're talking about admission of evidence here is really the issue here when we're talking about these prior bad act witnesses, for instance, and we're talking about decisions that the trial court makes after conducting the balancing test, and the decision really won't be disturbed unless there were things like bias shown, prejudice shown, partiality, ill will, unreasonableness, or just a lack of evidentiary support overall, maybe to show that the decision was just purely erroneous. So this is a very high standard. I spoke with highly qualified trial expert Barbara Ashcroft about this as well. Let's take a listen to some of what she said now.
The standard of review here is abuse of discretion by Judge O'Neill. That is a very high standard of proof. So defense in this case, they're going to do a lot of spinning. Certainly they've got some ground to cover, and they have to do their job and advocate for Mr. Cosby, but at the end of the day, Bill Cosby's not getting out of jail, and I don't see this conviction being overturned. No, that is a prosecutor talking, but that's what I see.
And with respect to those prior bad act witnesses, of course, you know, the court's engaging in this balancing test, right, in order to admit them in the first place. And there are exceptions to character evidence. It's not just a character assassination. We're talking about conduct that is nearly so identical. It shows a signature move, if you will, of the perpetrator. And in this case, we're talking about, and these are just some of the similarities, we're talking about women being alone with him in a place of his control. They viewed him as a mentor. We're talking about little blue pills or drinks, other intoxicants being administered. These women then being left feeling frozen, unable to fight him off, but being aware that they were being attacked, but just unable to physically fight and move their bodies because of that partial paralysis. And all of these women reporting being sexually assaulted. So this is predatory behavior and a pattern that was shown here. So that's one of the big issues, Vinny. And when I talked to Barbara Ashcroft, as mentioned in the report, she was in that office in Montgomery County as a prosecutor. She mentioned that there was a case she had before Judge Stephen O'Neill, and he didn't allow any prior bad act evidence, there we go, any of that to be introduced during the guilt phase in one trial she had. So she remembers being in front of him practicing, said he's been always known as a very thoughtful judge, a very fair judge, a very intelligent judge, someone that she highly respects. And I can tell you, in just watching him, I got to watch him quite a bit.
Okay, so we listened to the hearing, right? And that was Bill Cosby's attorney speaking the first part of this, the audios and stuff that you heard. And then we heard Court TV. And the reason why I put Court TV in this was because I wanted to show you how biased the media is. You understand what I'm saying? I wanted to show you how biased the media was. So you see how they had a prosecutor on there, a prosecutor. Not two different people who have two different points of views. Not a defense attorney and the prosecutor. They had a prosecutor on there, and they were basically saying, "Oh, this doesn't mean anything," or they was just really trying to downplay Bill Cosby Day at the Pennsylvania Supreme Court today. You know what I mean? And this was the day before. This was actually yesterday on the 30th. So they're trying to play it to put it out there to the media, like, "Oh, it just doesn't mean anything." Downplay, and that's the power of the media. You know, the media has become a voice to where they've been one-sided. The women liberation movement, they have purchased, okay? You know, George Soros and all of them put the memo out there, and they just flow with it. And you don't have a mind to think for yourselves. They want to tell you what to think, what to believe, and everything else. And a lot of people who are surface level thinkers, they do that. They believe everything that's in the media. They believe what they say because they can program people like that. And these are the people who think R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, and everybody that's accused of a sexual assault is guilty because that's what the media told them. They can't think for themselves. These are the people that can't walk and chew gum at the same time. So, but then you have people who's strong, who have a mind, who have logical thinking. We get accused of being victim shamers. But what they fail to tell you is that we don't victim shame. I'm always aside for real victims. Real. The key word is real. R-E-A-L. Key word is real. When there's a real claim, a real argument, a real complaint, when it's real. Not a complaint for profit. And I can decipher the difference. A lot of people can't because of what happened to them in their personal lives, especially if they are a victim. But Joe Broke Ass is a victim and broke, advocating for those who are victim for profit. It doesn't even make sense in itself right there. But I'm a victim shamer. Not a victim shamer, I'm a realist. And I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear and pat you on your back and burp you like a baby because that's what you think Spittinfire is supposed to do. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you what you really need to hear, whether you like it or not. Because even as a victim, it doesn't give you you don't get exempt for getting burped the hell up here. That's why I'm always able to take constructive criticism when people come at me and all this and that. I'm always, and believe me, I hear some of you. I hear your arguments, I hear your complaints, I hear you bickering at me, I hear it. And then I do look in the mirror and try to do some searching on it. Am I a little too hard? Am I a little too aggressive? So I bag up and I calm down a little bit, a lot. That's one of the reasons why RA's rant, is no more, because people were saying I was going too hard on people. And I don't want to be the type of blogger that goes so hard on people and people jump. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to sit up there and pat you on your back because you say you're a victim and burp you and say, "Oh, I'm just going to believe you." I'm supposed to just believe you? I don't know your ass. So if I have a friend like Lisa Leslie who is with Kobe Bryant, I'm supposed to believe some victims I don't know? Kobe's her friend. That's why Gail, and I'm so happy that I wish he never really recanted what he said. But I'm glad he did put it out there. If it wasn't nothing but to change the world for 2 weeks, I'm glad he did it. Because it was needed. They needed to hear it. You just don't sit up there and get all the time you want to do all you want to do. You don't get all the money you want to get and all your settlements and everything, civil settlements. And then when your money run low, you want to say, okay, well, there's a criminal charge if there ain't no new money. No, that's not how that goes. And if he is granted this, see how she said, oh, he's not getting out no time soon. Oh, he's not. That's the Supreme Court. That is the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. If they found that his rights were violated and he was not doing, his ass will walk the hell up out of there. Yes, he will. You see how he want to tell people, oh, he's not getting out? You see the biasness in that. I don't understand. I don't care if you think that he's guilty. You don't see the biasness in that in itself? This is what I've been talking about with you guys. This is what I wanted to break down to you. I wanted to break down my actual commentary. I wanted to give you a little bit of audio of the hearing. Then I want to show you a snippet of Court TV and how biased mainstream media is. That was just a biased thing that Court TV has done. That whole commentary with the attorney, okay, advisor, and the person who actually did the research or whatever, and just sitting there saying, oh, well, yes, the victims and he's not getting out, and there's a pattern, and it's not a pattern of women being alone with him. He's a rich man. There's a lot of women with him. So that doesn't speak no volume. And I have told people that. People say, well, he did it to all 5 of them women. Yes, he's a rich, wealthy man. They come into his life. You talking about women from the 50s all the way up until now. So you think there's only going to be 2? Did you think he was a virgin? This was a rich man. Like I mentioned earlier, Hollywood, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Like, people think when you are a big celebrity with all these women telling the same story, that all of them telling the truth. That's what you guys put out there. That doesn't mean that when there's money on the table, all of them will sing the same song. And that does not mean that it is telling the truth at all. That's not meaning that at all. So this is what I need you guys to make sure you understand. That sometimes numbers don't speak volume, as what she tried to say in her journalistic work, if you call it, on Court TV. It doesn't speak volume. Not when you're a man of this magnitude or R. Kelly's magnitude. No, it doesn't. It takes an army of them to bring you down. They know that. But they know you have been in a company of many women because of your power and your status and your money and your fame. So you need to understand the difference, and you people need to be not so brainwashed, as you call R. Kelly accusers. They brainwash. No, society is brainwashed. You're brainwashed by the mainstream media, into which I just showed you. I just showed you, and a lot of you guys take that and believe it because they said it. Who are they? You have social media now. And then they say, oh, the power of social media can be damaging. No. The one thing that social media is doing is that, yeah, it can be damaging. Social media can be damaging and ruin one's reputation. But in this instance, and today, the way I feel about Bill Cosby hearing with the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, I feel good. Now, I'm not understanding, you know what I mean? I can't see them saying anything different than what I'm really believing and feeling in my heart, but I would be really shocked if it was something other than what I really feel, and I feel it was a good thing for Bill Cosby today. But what I want to say is social media also tells the truth, because you have everyday people like me who actually research this, and other people who, like Nicole'S View and other bloggers who actually research the Bill Cosby and R. Kelly situation and actually can give you some real basic commentary. Not commentary just based on indictment. Indictments are not, again, they're not in stone, okay? They're not. And a lot of people read them and all this. I don't waste my time with that, because the simple fact is it's just a court process into making an arrest or something like that. And that's a right that the prosecutors have when they feel that they're trying to get a violent offender off the street. But it still also has to be challenged by the defense. People think that if you get indictments, that's it. If the feds arrest you, that's it. I spoke on that a whole lot of times. If that was it, well, why would we have a court system then? People, I need you guys to think. I need you to make sense of what it is that you say. I really need you to think. And that is really crucial, because if you just go on with mainstream media, this is the biases that you get. That I just showed you with Court TV. That was strictly biased. But if you actually go over to Nicole'S View to see the whole hearing part, what happened on that hearing today, December the 1st, was totally different what Court TV told you that would happen. Even with their prosecutor. You understand what I'm saying? So what she was saying was happening and what the journalist said would have to happen did not match up today. You get what I'm going? So when you sit up there and listen to these people, you have to still do your own research. And this is why mainstream media is not going to like social media, because now people can do their own research and get the information out there. They can't tell you what they want you to believe and the stories they want you to go with anymore. Now we can decipher and research things for ourselves. And that's what we need to do, especially if people of color. Especially. And men as well. Okay, white men, black men, as long as you have a penis and you can be charged with a sexual assault, especially if you're wealthy, you as well. You're going to need social media. It can damage your reputation at the same time, but it can help you as well. Because if we wasn't out here putting information out about Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, or any other injustices or whatever, people would be thinking everything that the mainstream media want them to believe, that the powers told them to put out here to the people to get you to see one way. And you smarter than that. And now that you know that and you've seen that right here on Spittin' Fire tonight, you need to understand, don't believe everything in the media. The media ain't always right. People say, oh, I seen the video of R. Kelly. Everything you see may not be what it is. You understand me? There are some things that have to be held accountable. Like parents got to be held accountable. It's mighty funny you trying to bring this man down on the racketeering. I'm talking about R. Kelly right now. But nobody else, no parents or nothing. Okay, so now that we set up here and we talked about the Bill Cosby in part 1 and we ended, I said that at the beginning that I was going to come at you guys with some, about the subscribers. So as I go over there to Nicole's View, getting back to that, okay, I go over there to Nicole's View, right? And at the beginning of, before she started her stream or whatever, she had to address some subs and how people come at her. And now I understand people come at me because mine is raw, uncut. I use a lot of aggressive language, a lot of cuss words. I have to cuss people out sometimes. I mean, it's spitting fire. Okay, that's the name of the show. That's what I have to do sometimes. I have to actually get down and dirty and raw and ratchet and ghetto with the rest of them and all this and that. I do. I really do, because that's what the world does to you. You know what I mean? They bring that to you and you got to get there with them. And it doesn't matter, because you got somebody that's a lot more calm, a lot more structured. I could say a little bit slighter on the professional side and conservative side. And you guys still come at her. And I was talking to the Blockbender TV Experience, DJ Knott. And he has a conservative, way that his channel is structured. And you guys come at him. And then I, thought of some other people, that's not here to defend themselves. But there were people, and they, like T. Stevens, he doesn't bother anybody. And you, other bloggers, even had to say something about him. Finding something to say because somebody is siding differently than what you believe in. It doesn't even matter how you run your channel. If it is ratchet and loud, as ghetto as mine can be sometimes, as I opened up in Spitfire, or if I'm ranting, or if I'm talking conservative, as I think I am, and given this Bill Cosby situation, it doesn't matter. You guys proven that it does not even matter. Because there's always going to be a hater. Just like when I was over there on Nicole's View, and I contributed to the channel because I thought that she did a phenomenal job. I feel that it is our duty as a culture to help others. It doesn't matter if you agree with the style. If they spitting the information out there that is needed at that particular segment on that particular show, it's done. And I wanted to support it at that time, so I did. And there were some people coming for her panel as well. They didn't like her panel and the guest that was on her show coming for them. But then she had to say people were coming for her at the beginning of her starting her show today with Bill Cosby hearing. But then I do a contribution, and then there's a person saying all these lies. The very same thing that they have to do, other bloggers have to do, and their friends, former friends of mine, have to stick to the lies. The lies said that I slander victims over here and that I put out victims' information. Spittinfire. A person who doesn't do none of it said that I do it, put me in the category of all of everything that the ops does and everything else. I find it very troubling to be lied on. I really do. But I had to think at that moment. And let me tell you how you helped me. I had to think at that very moment, I'm doing something right. Because I said that before in number 6, but it was solidified today on her show that I was actually right in what that I was speaking of in number 6. And that's fire number 6, that is. If you go on my video, you will see the numbers. And it's related to, when I say number 6, it's relating to that video on that thumbnail and what I'm speaking of. And you guys, when you can't get to a person in an articulate, a valid argument, you will stoop to lying. When that person does things on the up and up and you can't get around it because you're doing something sneaky and underhanded, you will stoop to lying. And some of you are so narcissistic that you will know that a person is lying, but because you can't admit that you were wrong, you will sit up there and support the lie. There's nothing in any of my videos that me giving out anybody's information. And one will have to think of one being a victim if they believe that they have been victimized, which personally I don't think none of these people are victims. And that's my right. So you can say it's victim shaming. I say victim for profit, and that's not the same as being a victim. But even then, I don't speak on them. Now I do commentary because they're fair game. Because they out here and was in the relationship with a public figure, so that makes you fair game as well. But never have I victim shamed anybody, and if it's an ongoing trial, I try to stay away from it. That's why I don't even read the indictments. It's ongoing, and I try to stay away from it. I try to limit what I put out here. Even if I have information, even if I come across information, I know not to put everything out here. But because you have so many people, as soon as they get some information and switch information and change information, they put it out here for clicks and views. If you're really helping somebody, you don't put everything out there. That's blogging 101. There's a lot of information I have on R. Kelly and Bill Cosby I don't put out there because I don't want that information to be used in a court proceeding. And I don't have to give it up to anybody. Allegedly. Now, how about that? But some of you do anything for the clicks and views, not knowing that you're helping because you're talking too much. You're helping the prosecutors. You don't put everything out here. Sometimes you do what I do and send it straight to the attorneys. And if they think it's helpful, they'll use it. Simple as that. I don't have to put everything out here. There are things that I gave strictly to the attorneys. R. Kelly attorneys. Bill Cosby attorneys. If they used it, they used it. If they didn't, they didn't. But they have it. It's there in files. They need to turn it over with the new hearing, whatever. That's when you're really helping someone. But do not lie. The lying has got to stop. It has to stop. Because at the end of the day, you will get a temporary win, but lying will never prevail in my book. It would never prevail, even if because you're going to have to reap the consequences of that. You're going to have to reap it. You never put anything out here that you want to reap. So that person just lied on her channel and just told them that I slander victims and putting the information out here, just so you know. Oh my goodness, really? You don't like Spittinfire that bad because she speaks the truth that much? Because she has a head on her shoulders, because she don't believe everything in the media, because she can think and articulate and explain things. She can break it down. She can use examples. She can make people look at things in the different points of view. That intimidates you. Well, it's going to always intimidate you. Because I'm not going to change who I am. I'm not going to stop. Just like I did Sex, Murder, and Authority. The Hypocrisy, E&K, Lies and Truth. It's never going to stop. I'm going to always educate people that I can, or have people look at things in a different light pertaining to these cases. Because you need to think for yourself. The mainstream media has brainwashed people a lot more than they claiming R. Kelly did with these supposedly the victims. And now that we have social media, and now that I'm on board, you guys gonna really be mad. Don't be a mad ass. If you don't be a mad ass. Don't do that. You gonna give yourself an ulcer. Bust a blood vessel. I don't want you to do that. Even if we disagree, I want you to be good, healthy, live long. Why would I want any bad and ill will towards you and come on here if I wanted harm for you? I want harm to none of my people. Even if we disagree on these subjects. I want no harm to you. But you gonna be mad as hell if you think you gonna change Spittinfire for not telling the truth and logic. I'm trying to just get you guys to look at things in a more logical perspective as to your beliefs. Challenge your beliefs. Why are you people so scared to challenge what you believe? Even if something happened to you, even if you were a rape victim, why are you scared to challenge your belief? Why are you saying to yourself, and this is to all the other bloggers who said that too, I think Tasha K even spoke, I'm always believe the victims. Why? Because you were wrong? I mean, why are you always going to believe the victims? Why? Why do people who say they victims need to just be believed by you? Why? Because you said nobody believed you? What if people did believe you? Why? Why is it that you say, well, because nobody believed? Why? Why do you feel that? And you know what? This one actually to Tasha K. I hope she look at this part of the video, and I know it's at the end. But why do you feel that you need to always believe the victims because you're a victim? Because you feel nobody believed you, or your perp did not get prosecuted? How come you can't look at things like this? I don't know nothing about your case, Ms. Tasha K. I don't. And I don't want to victim shame. You're a victim. I will always side with victims, real victims. I believe you. I really do. I don't believe every little black girl in the neighborhood like you guys want me to. No, I'm not going to be shallow like that. That's shallow thinking, and I'm not going to do that. But I believe you. But what I want you to understand is this. Really. I really want you to understand this. When you went to court and you picked out your perp as the person who violated you, and even if there wasn't a conviction, you felt the lowest because you felt that person should go to jail, which you have every right to feel that way. I'm not saying you don't. I'm not saying that at all. And that person should be in jail. Yeah. But you did help little black girls in the neighborhood. And I stand corrected here on Spittinfire when I say, well, you do this and you do that. I'm going to say why. And I thought about this and I had to think. And that's why I say I always look in the mirror and try to do some soul searching, because sometimes I'm wrong. But you did. Because if he didn't hurt no one else after you, you did your job. Think of it like that. All right, thank y'all for listening to Spittinfire. I'm your girl, Ari Jackson.